18 years ago, our marketing team was fortunate enough to have a really nice cookout at our CEO's home. This was, wow, this is when our team was much smaller, maybe 15 to 20 people on our marketing team. And Tony Hsieh invited us over to his house, had a really nice cookout. We were able to enjoy his backyard. The weather was nice. And I remember asking Tony, I said, "Hey, Tony, how are all those guru friends of yours doing?" Now, Tony's very quiet, very reserved, very thoughtful in his response. And he said, "Oh, they're all doing great. And, one thing to keep in mind is that in order to grow a business beyond 20 million, you really need to build a brand." And I had the opportunity to sit down with him briefly. We talked a little bit about that. But today, everybody mentions that, building a brand, even if you're just starting out as an online marketer, about building a brand. And this was 18 years ago, and I spoke about that way beyond that. But that was my first time I had heard somebody mention that, is when Tony Hsieh had mentioned building a brand. And of course, with his company, that's the brand was built on customer service, fast shipping, fun company culture. Now, the reason I share this and brought this up, one, it was a great experience because I've only had a handful of those interactions with Tony Hsieh over the years, but all of them were memorable, and I'll share some of the other ones in the future. But this one in particular, I think about, well, today we hear quite a bit about building a brand. Gary Vee is really vocal about that. Alex Hermosi. We all hear how important it is building a brand. I see a lot of influencers building their brand, a lot of fitness YouTubers that are great at what they do, all their fitness content, and then over time, they'll start to private label and have their own supplements or yoga mats. And the great thing about that is they've already built an audience that knows, likes, and trusts them, as we mentioned briefly in some of the other videos. And now you have this incredible market that already appreciates what you have to share, and now you have something in form as a product that you can share with them. And that's why that brand is so key, but it even goes beyond that. One of the big things I think about too is with Amazon FBA. And that was one of the points that I heard being driven home, is building that unique brand and that brand name. Often in that space, it takes, maybe a physical product and making some slight tweaks, some slight adjustments, some slight enhancements to make it a little bit different, but offering a better value product. And of course, building that brand name. Now, why is that brand name so important? And this I learned in the first half of my career. The first 9 years was in Google Ads. Second half was in SEO. But in the paid space, and also on the organic side too, but in the paid space, you would see how expensive those clicks were, especially when you have a massive e-commerce brand where you're selling clothes, shoes, accessories. Just the sheer volume, the cost per click can really scale up into daily spend. And over the years, it gets more and more competitive and more expensive. So you really need to have repeat customers to offset that initial customer acquisition. So if you have customers that are already shopping with you, you don't want them to continue clicking on ads to get back to your site. You want them in the habit of visiting your site direct or following up with email marketing, various ways to get them back to your site where you're not having this cost per click every time that they come back. The other part too of that is having some back-end products you can offer if you do need to offset that initial cost. But if you can build that brand, have them come directly to your site, it's going to save you a ton of expenses in the long run. The other part of that too, and I think of Gary Vee always maybe shares the example of the future in people searching voice search or even on AI, rather than randomly asking to purchase a service or accounting services, they're going to mention a particular brand that they remembered because they've been exposed to it through social and various types of marketing, and that compounds over time. You want to be memorable. One of the big things at our company was the importance of having that customer touch, that customer service, customer loyalty team experience, and having that as a positive call experience or chat or email. And with that, when you have that positive feeling about it, you associate positive feelings to that company. So you're going to tell your friends, family, and that's going to refer more traffic to the site and acquire more customers organically versus going down the paid route. And I think about, building brand and just that personal story with Tony that I wanted to share. And of course, it mentioned there'd be some other stories I share in the future about that. But I wanted to share some of the reasonings behind that. We often hear that building a brand, but why that is so important to differentiate yourself, have your brand memorable, have a positive experience to acquire those customers and that traffic, and also offset the expense of somebody doing a generic search for whatever your product or services are. You want them to come directly back to you. And the more you can instill that positive experience, and I think about that, in terms of like a YouTube channel, and I see this often with some channels that I really enjoy following, is do they deliver on that promise of what they mentioned in the title versus the content of the video. One that I remember, there was a video about a Lamborghini, and that drew my interest. That drew me into the video. Now, this video was really, really long, and of course, they don't show the Lamborghini until the end of the video, and it was a very small piece of this content, and I still remember that as a negative emotional experience, and I never went back to visit that channel. So delivering on promises, having phenomenal products, and I think Alex Hermosi, I don't know exact words how he distilled it, but it's, really creating an amazing product or service is such a huge way to grow your brand. And then it goes back to that word of mouth, how we'd mentioned before. So wish you the best in building your brand. Just wanted to share why that carries a lot of value. Big corporations definitely focus on that because they're monitoring the numbers and they see what the cost per acquisition is. So we also saw that on the organic side. The amount of traffic, somebody looking just for your brand name, how huge that is. And it's going to convert higher because they already know what they're looking for and what they want. It also helps in those search results when they apply your brand name in front of what they're looking for. Now those search results are going to be tailored to what your brand has to offer. So I wish you the best in building your brand. Just wanted to share some of the reasons why building your brand is so important. Stay focused, stay excited, stay motivated. Thanks for joining the video, and we'll talk soon. Have an amazing day. Thanks.